Yeah, I don't know if, who's back tonight?
Michelle.
Michelle?
Yeah, just hold it up until it.
Or shirts on,
The little on-air thing.
you guys are ready, yep. So we'll get Michelle's attention.
There we go. Okay. Call to order the Chaska Planning Commission Wednesday, November 9th, 2022 meeting. Liz, can you take a roll?
Yes, Commissioner Asen,
Here.
Gory, Lacey, Olson,
Here.
Urbanski, Baswa,
Here.
Riley, and Chairperson Brass.
Here. Okay, with that, we will move into adopt the agenda. Does anyone like to make a motion to adopt the agenda?
I'll make a motion to adopt the agenda.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second by Olson and Asen. I always want to say that wrong. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Then we go on to visitor presentation. Does there anyone like to? All right.
I'll make this.
Welcome back.
Yes, I'm Susan Cross. I am a resident of Chaska, and I just have some questions about water that I do not expect the answers tonight. It's just to remind the commissioners of certain points that they should be looking for. Right now, do we have enough capacity for the planned expansions and building development that's occurring? Does the city require all the new construction to have water-saving appliances and so forth? Big corporations tend to oversize parking lots, and the example of that is Target, which was shrunk when they sold off part of their lot to another company, which I think was great. But in the large parking lots, I would hope that the city would require that the runoff be captured and not just gone into storm sewers and be placed in a green holding pond, or like at the clay hole where they have water stored underneath the parking lot. The question is about watering the lawn every other day throughout the city. Has that been effective this past year? And has the city ever considered a moratorium on lawn watering? And then the one question would be, are other styles of lawns acceptable or encouraged?
Are you for artificial lawns?
No, actually. I'll use an extreme example that they use in Arizona, rocks and cactuses. Cactuses do grow in Minnesota and other succulents that overwinter. So that's just questions for thought. Thank you.
I know you would know trees. So isn't there a citrus tree that grows in Minnesota? I heard that there's one. I forget what it is. Is it like mango or?
No, it isn't a mango.
Put me on the spot.
Yes, you have put me on the spot. I would hate to call it a real citrus because people wouldn't eat the itty-bitty thing off of it. But we do have other fruit trees that are quite water conserving that do not, like apple trees, take a lot of water, but there are others, fruit trees that do a nice job.
Gotcha. All right, well, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anyone else that would like to approach the commission with something that's not on the agenda tonight? Okay. Looks like we'll move on to approve the previous meeting minutes. Has the commission had a chance to review the previous meeting minutes? With that, can we get a motion to approve the meeting minutes?
I can make a motion to approve the previous meeting minutes.
By Baswa, and a second.
I'll second.
Second by Olson. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We don't have any consent items. Then we will go to action items. Liz with 7A.
Can you see my screen up there? Great. Thank you, members of the Planning Commission. We have a preliminary site and building plan, preliminary plat, and zoning ordinance amendment for the project known as Structures Incorporated. The site in question this evening is highlighted on the aerial exhibit shown on this slide. It's generally located on the southeast portion of the city, right off of Old Audubon Road and Arbor Drive. It also has Reveau Road flanked on its western side. This is a existing agricultural piece just north of the East Creek carriage homes. There's also a Highline transmission that runs along the southern portion of the property. So in terms of the planning process, with our three-step process, they're at the second step in the process here. They still have an additional step to go with the city that'll come back at a later time. Just a couple images from some views on the site itself, looking from the east, west, and north sides of the property. In terms of previous approvals that have been done, this dates back to all the way back to 1997 when the property was platted as a part of the East Creek Carriage Homes development. So right now it exists as an outlot. It was always guided to be an industrial piece as a part of that plat. It would be several years until a plan came forward for that parcel of land, which was 2018 when we saw the first concept plan approved for this site, and that showed a one-building project with exterior storage. They came back in 2019 to get preliminary site and building plan, platting, and rezoning done. And at that time, it was rezoned to a planned industrial district, PID 9 to be exact. After those approvals were done, they did realize that the soils out there were poor and the project they were pursuing would be costly in order to accommodate the poor soils on the site. So they did come back with a revised site plan in May of 2020 where they reoriented the building, but still at that time it was too costly for them to construct the project. Given the type of foundation elements that they would have to bring in to accommodate the poor soils. So they did come back with another revised plan back in July of this year. The concept plan came forward for a 3-building, 3-lot project, which when they started to downsize the building footprints out there, they realized that these would require these wouldn't require the atypical foundation systems that would be needed for a larger building format. So that's why they're presenting this 3-building and 3-lot concept as we're moving forward, as it would be a more efficient way of building on the site. So the site itself is a 5.25 acre parcel. Again, it was previously used as an agricultural site, so someone was farming the site. There is a holding pond that exists on the south side within the transmission line easement that also exists on the site. This pond was put in place with the residential development to the south, the East Creek Carriage Homes, so that will continue to remain with this project. With the Highline being existing on the south side, there is an easement of 125 feet on the south side that encompasses that transmission line. A portion of the plan that they're proposing, which we also prefaced in the concept plan, is that some of it will encroach into that easement area. They have been having continuous communication with Xcel Energy to be able to do that, and Xcel is favorable of them encroaching, and will continue to work with them through the process in order to meet their limitations. With the double street frontage on Revoe and Old Audubon, they will have direct access onto Old Audubon Road off of Arbor Drive, which is a shared driveway for this site and the sites to the north. So they will have a shared access agreement with that driveway on Arbor Drive. Revoe Road would have prohibition to any additional access points onto Revoe Road. So the only access point would come from Old Audubon. So what they're requesting this evening is preliminary site and building plan approval, which would entail the construction of 3 new buildings and lots. 2 of the lots would have exterior storage yards along with that. Since they are proposing 3 lots, they're also requesting a preliminary plat. And then the third piece of the request would be a zoning ordinance amendment to the PID 9 district to include the 3 lots within the zoning classification. So this is the proposed site plan for the development. The main access point will come off of Arbor Drive and have a shared access point for all 3 lots to have access to the access point onto Old Audubon Road. The 3 buildings are situated kind of in the center of each of these lots that are being proposed. The fronts of these buildings that are on the edges of the site would face out towards the road, so the front elevation would be most visible as you're traveling along both Revoe and Old Audubon. The buildings will range in size from 6,200 square feet up to 7,400 square feet. The 6,200 smaller version would be in the middle lot, and then the 7,400 square foot buildings will be on the outer lots. The storage yards are depicted or delineated in the dashed marked lines on the site. So these will be south of the buildings and on the rear portion of the buildings for the outer lots. The middle lot is not proposing to have exterior storage. And with that, they are proposing privacy fencing to delineate the south edge of the site. So that would run along the entire edge of where the parking goes on both sides of the site. And that would be a 6-foot privacy fence. In addition to that, they'll also do landscaping on the south side to help soften that edge. They'll be putting in berming as well on the south side and on the west sides to kind of heighten or elevate the visual component that you see from the roadside. This is their landscape plan. This is probably the area that we've provided commentary on as they work on towards the final. I've included the marked up landscape plan in terms of areas for them to fill in, which are the yellow areas of this exhibit for screening, as well as just filling in additional vegetation through the site. They've oriented most of their plantings on the south side, which is a logical approach, but also from staff's point of view to balance out the landscaping and the greenery in between the buildings and the lots and on the north side facing the other industrial. So that'll be something they'll have to work on as they approach final. The red lines are where the fencing is proposed for the exterior storage. So those pieces would have to be opaque, decorative pieces, since they'll be visible from the roadside and from adjoining residential. The design of the buildings will all have the same design. They're proposing a modular brick application, metal paneling, precast panels, as well as some manufactured stone. From an industrial requirement, they do meet the the requirements for industrial building design and materials. Just a couple more architectural plans for the floor plans and the elevations in a more simplified exhibit. So again, just to reiterate, the pieces to work on for final will be within the landscape plan. They do have to meet our understory requirement. I believe there are only 3 trees short of that, and also filling in on the areas of the plan that we noted before, and working with Xcel Energy to make sure they're okay with the plan. And then working on the fencing components that are visible from the right-of-way in public. So in conclusion, we have 2 motions that we're asking you to make this evening. One motion would be to recommend approval of the preliminary site and building plan and preliminary plat for structures based on the conditions that are listed in the staff report. And then a motion to recommend approval of the zoning ordinance amendment to the PID 9 district based on the draft ordinance provided in your packet. If this moves forward tonight, it will go to City Council on Monday, November 21st. So not this upcoming Monday, but the Monday after. Happy to answer any questions. The applicant is in the audience as well to help answer questions. And then just to further note that this is a public hearing for this project.
Thank you, Liz. Before we open the public hearing, bring it to the commission, just any questions for Liz? I have a couple, but if anyone else like to go first?
No, you can go ahead.
Nothing? The 3 different structures, is it 3 different property IDs, or is it all one property ID?
There'd be 3 separate lots, so 3 separate IDs ultimately.
Okay. So then there'd be, with regards to the access, like a cross-access agreement across to all in the title?
Correct. Yep, that's going to be a requirement as a recording of the plat is to have that agreement in place.
Gotcha. Those are my 2 main questions. We've seen this a few times now, so
Yep.
I don't have any further questions. Got a couple of people in the crowd here, so I'll open up the public hearing at 7:17. If anyone would like to speak or address the commission. Do we have anybody? Oh, go ahead, come on up.
I just have a question about the forward-facing part of the buildings. Is that facing Audubon, Old Audubon Road?
That's correct. So this portion of the building would
For
be,
the record, can you please state
Oh,
your
yeah.
name and
Oh, Bob Lincoln, resident here in Chaska.
do we need an address?
we do need an address for the
Okay.
record.
1339 Prairie Street,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chaska, Minnesota, 55318.
Thank you.
Perfect, thanks.
Yeah, just to clarify your question, the front portions of the building that are seen here would be out facing towards Old Audubon Road and Reveau Road. So this will be the front here as well as here. So you'll have that front.
Which is the
entrance.
front, please? Sorry.
This is the front. So this is the side facing Old Audubon Road right here. If you can see my cursor.
I can't see your cursor.
Sorry. So Old Audubon is on the right-hand side of that screen
Okay.
at the edge. So the front of the building would be out facing towards Old Audubon.
That's
And then
what I
the
wanted to
same
know.
for Reveau. Yep.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Are we still doing the Zoom thing?
Yes,
Nate?
we are.
Is there anyone online?
I don't see anyone else on Zoom.
Okay. At 7:19, I think we'll close the public hearing and bring it back to commission again.
I really like the design. I mean, the slight changes that were made to the building on the west end of it, to have the parking lot or the driveway to the north side of the building versus looping around to the south and putting headlights into the residence side of things. I think that was definitely a good move and kept it there. I saw that there was a sidewalk that was connecting to Reveau Road. Is that a requirement or just a nice to have? for the developer?
Yeah, what we noted in concept plan was to have a form of connectivity from the site out to the roadways. We understand that there's not sidewalks on the west, or the east side of Revo Road today, nor are there sidewalks on Old Audubon Road, but there is potential that sidewalks could be added at some point in the future, so we want to, plan for that in any aspect that we can right now. So it could be a phased approach in terms of the sidewalk systems, but we wanted to see how it could connect out.
And then with fencing, it is a mix of opaque and link.
Correct. What they're proposing right now is the privacy fencing would occur all on that south perimeter of the site, so that would help with the screening element. The chain link fence would delineate where the exterior storage can go.
Right.
So that would be completely transparent, obviously. So that's why the pieces highlighted in red here are the ones to be looked at further for opaqueness and kind of a decorative piece, since they're going to be more visible from the road right-of-way.
Right, it's still the kind of the dust-free, instead of the class 5 or like the crushed.
Nope, all of it's paved.
Oh, it's.
Yeah, before they did propose that on the one building
Right.
plan, but
Right.
all of this would be
Previous
paved.
iteration when it was just the one structure.
Right.
So all else.
Okay.
Using concrete on all the staging areas.
What was that? Can
For
you?
all of our, we're still looking at using convent for all the outdoor storage areas, not paving it. So,
Okay. Well, that would be a good thing to refine in the final.
Okay,
So
yeah,
because-
gotcha. Remember that was,
It's got a couple
Different.
different.
yeah, different for like our, it was gone through a couple different iterations, but it was a different thing that we've seen before typically, and there's some questions about it, and it seems like it would be a good product because it would be less dusty.
Yeah, I think where we left off on that conversation is, I think you guys were amenable
Yeah.
to that as an option, as long as there's dust controlling methods
Right,
for it. So if that's going to be pursued, then we would just need more information from the applicant on that.
okay, that'd be good to have it clarified by final, and I'll just give I've liked the project since it was introduced. There's just not a lot of small space for small business owners in the city and in the Twin Cities. Everything that's developed is larger. It's for the big companies that take down 100,000 feet these days, and there's just not a lot of starter space. So it fills a void that is very hard to come by. I deal with it all the time in my business, and so I think it's a great project. And with that, I guess we don't really have any further questions. If it's all right, I'll make a motion.
I'll make a motion to recommend approval of the preliminary site and building plan and preliminary plat for structures, subject to the following 20 conditions.
So a motion by Commissioner Olson,
I second.
second by Commissioner Baswa. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
And then
I
a
think
second
with that,
motion.
Move on.
No, we got to make a
We have
motion.
two motions, yep,
There is one more.
for the zoning
Zoning.
ordinance
Yeah,
amendment.
the zoning.
Yeah.
Would someone like to make a motion, recommend approval for the zoning ordinance?
I can make a
amendment?
motion. I recommend, make a motion to recommend approval of the zoning ordinance amendment to PID 9.
Perfect. Motion by Commissioner Baswa. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Assen. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Now with that, we can move on to action item 7B. Thank you. It's down there at the bottom.
All right. Thank you, members of the Planning Commission. We have a preliminary site and building plan and a rezoning for the project known as the North Water Treatment Plant within the city of Chaska. City of Chaska is the proposer on this project. The site location is highlighted in red on this aerial exhibit. The site is located on the east side of Hunter Mark Road, just north of Pioneer Trail. Hazeltine National Golf Course abuts it on all three sides, on the north, east, and south sides. And then you have Chaska Commons directly across the street on the west side. So we're also at the second step in the process here. There's still a third and final step to go. Just a little bit of a background. Currently, what exists on this site is Chaska's well number 7. It's an untreated supplemental well for peak demand days. Over time, we've come to realize that another treatment facility is needed within the city due to the growth that we're experiencing. The site of well number 7 became the more efficient and kind of financially feasible route to go in terms of adding another treatment facility within the city. So with that, the city did pursue the first step in the process, a concept plan to locate a water treatment facility on this site in April of 2022. Really, kind of the big ticket item that was discussed at that time was the color of the roof, which a gray roof and a red roof were proposed at that time. And the outcome of the meetings went in the direction of the gray roof being more favorable. So tonight we have a plan that reflects that feedback. The property, again, is highlighted in red on this aerial exhibit, is about a half acre in size. The city of Chaska does own both the parcels that make up this half acre area. The zoning out there is currently open zoning, which is essentially a holding zoning district until it gets rezoned. Again, the current use of the property is for well number 7. And some of the existing conditions out there, there is a pretty good amount of existing vegetation that flank the north and east sides of the property, as well as some berming that the proposed building will be able to sit into. So there is a good deal of screening that already takes place out there on the north and east sides of the property. So the request this evening is for preliminary site and building plan, which would be for an approximately 12,000 square foot water treatment facility. The height would range from 20 feet, kind of at its average height, to 37 feet at its highest point, although the majority of the building would be under 32 feet. The design of the building was influenced by other civic buildings within the city, so you'll see a lot of that cohesive character come through in the building's design. The second part of the request would be a rezoning to P2, which is public buildings, from the open zoning district. The comprehensive plan does guide this to be a public and semi-public land use guidance, so it's consistent with that. So again, the building, and this is looking east towards the top here. The building will kind of be more of a rectangular shape, and a total square footage, again, would hit that 12,000 square foot threshold. And again, the existing well 7 will kind of be contained within the newer proposed water treatment facility. So in essence, it's kind of an expansion out there. So the structure of well number 7 will currently sit in its place, with the addition of the building for the treatment center would kind of happen around that. There's currently an access point onto Hunter Mark Road that acts as the access to well number 7 today, so that would continue to be utilized as the access into the water treatment facility. They're proposing 2 parking stalls for workers to be able to utilize. These facilities, due to the nature of the operations that occur in there, they don't house any one person from an operation standpoint, but will require regular visits to the site on a weekly and monthly basis. So the 2 parking stalls would be able to accommodate any of that traffic. And then in terms of utilities out there, utilities are already set up to accommodate this facility with the sewer and the water line being in close proximity. And just another item of note, again, with the topography of the site, the north portion of the building will really sit into the grade out there. So on the east side, not much of the building, or portion of the building will be covered because of that. This is the landscape plan, so landscaping will also be installed as a part of this plan, which will meet the city's landscape requirements. In terms of the overall look, these next few slides show the visual or the design of the building. So again, the building was designed to fit in with the other city municipal buildings here in Chaska. So a majority of the building will be a Chaska brick blend. There will be some architectural metal paneling for accent portions of the building, really anchoring the building into the ground, which is a design element that we see on other civic buildings. There will also be windows implemented, mainly on the front side that faces out towards Hunter Markt. In addition to that, they'll incorporate detailing within the brick and the mixture of the material so that 360-degree architecture is achieved on all sides of the building. And again, as you can see, the roof color proposed is gray and not red this time around. Just a couple other views. The top image would be looking southeast from Hunter Mark Road. The bottom image would be looking mainly from the Hazelton Golf Course side on kind of the looking more northwest. We also wanted to provide a couple view sheds from the golf course, just in terms of what can be seen from the nearest portion of the golf course, which is the driving range. So they've created some renderings to show the existing vegetation out there and really what would be seen from the golf course. The top image would be from the driving range looking southwest. So you can see a small portion of the building peeking through that existing tree line. The bottom image is also looking southwest, but a little bit closer to the site itself. And again, kind of a smaller view of that building as well. And really the reason why the gray roof was emphasized or more favorable compared to the red roof is it did lend itself to blend more into the background of the context. So in conclusion, we have 2 motions that we're asking from you this evening. One would be recommending approval of the preliminary site and building plan for the northern water treatment plant, and then subject to the conditions that are listed in the staff report. The second would be recommending approval of a rezoning from the open zoning district to public buildings P2 zoning district. And if this one moves forward, it would go to City Council on Monday, November 21st. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Liz. Does anyone have any questions for Liz?
Nope.
Or amongst yourselves? So, obviously, I
Nothing.
think we discussed this too. There's 2 parking stalls, but that's all that's really needed, huh?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah,
It's
I
just
mean,
gonna-
it's not a
just gonna sit
continuous parked site.
Yeah.
It's only when needed, and
Right.
it's infrequent at best, but yeah.
Yeah, this is, I don't have anything further. It is a public hearing, so I
Yep.
will open the public hearing at 7:34. If anyone would like to address the commission, we have a generous crowd tonight out there. So, no, going once, Is there anyone on Zoom?
Very similar generous flowers.
Do we, if you pull up YouTube, do we even have a viewer? I don't know, do we?
Well, that's a question, yeah. I don't know.
All right, I'm closing, at 7:35, I'm closing the public hearing. All right, we have nothing, nobody to approach, so with that, bring it back to commission for any final discussion. Obviously, it must be needed, I think it's great.
Right. They addressed the one question, which was the color of the roof.
The
and-
roof, yep. I was initially wondering, I think I don't know if I was here in that original spring one, but I was wondering if it was a Hazeltine thing where they didn't want like this color in the background for golfers or something. But that wasn't it, it was just more of a blend-in deal, huh?
And honestly, I don't even know that Hazeltine was necessarily for or against
Yeah.
either color. It was just more of, what do we
The
think
view,
is
what's it gonna
best?
look like, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, without further ado, we have a couple of things to do here. And so would anyone like to make a motion for approval?
I'll make the motion to recommend the approval of the North Water Treatment Plant Preliminary Site and Building Plan, PC 2022-58, subject to the following 10 conditions.
Motion by Commissioner Assen,
Second.
second by Commissioner Baswa. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We have a second motion that's needed for the rezoning. Anyone like to make that motion?
I'll make the motion to recommend approval of the rezoning from open to P2 public building.
Motion by
Second.
Commissioner Olson, second by Assen. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Yep. And so, going back,
Yeah, thanks for coming.
what we got left now? We got other business. Anything anyone like to, I'll go. My kids are devastated that the Dairy Queen burned down. So let's leave that out there. Hopefully they get that restored quickly or something happens. I'm sure it's gonna be a longer process than they would like.
Same for mine. My daughter actually worked there a couple summers
Oh,
ago. So
really?
she's
Yeah,
a little sad sitting in college now, but
yeah.
I did have something that I brought up to Nate earlier today, and that's, is the current economy affecting any of the developments proposed in Chaska at the time? I've seen it in a couple business magazines that
Yeah.
some developers are delaying projects or pulling them.
So far, everything that we've seen being, currently in the planning process continues to move forward. We haven't heard from any developers desiring to withdraw from the process. I think it may be for some of them causing them to sort of take their time a little more through the process, but we haven't heard anybody yet say that they're looking to, withdraw or not pursue the project. There's a number of projects, as you know, as you drive around town that are in process of, various stages of grading and build and that kind of a thing. We haven't heard anything from any of those folks that they don't intend to go through to completion for those projects where there's, site work actively being done. So far in Chaska, we haven't really seen that occur, but you're right, that is something that is going on, metro, state, nationally. I think one of the things that's notable is, Liz and I talk about this pretty frequently. If we think about around this time last year, the number of discussions that we were having with potential developers looking to pursue processes, but maybe they hadn't quite submitted into it yet. We were quite busy doing that work at that time. Fast forward to now this year, that's dropped off pretty significantly. So I do expect that the planning caseload for next calendar year will be less than what you all experienced this year. Although this year was a historic high by any measure, so I think that would have been a good suspicion anyway. But I do think it's going to be, we're going to feel a drop here. There's still good projects in the pipeline. We expect those to go through, but I do think it's going to be quieter next year than it was this year.
Okay, thank you.
I think with that, we just move on to adjournment. So would anyone like to make a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Hills,
Second.
second by Boswell. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? We're adjourned.